Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
It's true.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. All right, well, we're doing it again. I love this. And we have a very special guest today. I'm really excited to talk to you more, Renée, about your topic. But before we dive into what you do, can you introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit more about you?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. Like we were talking about very briefly before getting on here, I just love being able to talk to other women in this space because I think it's so important. So thank you so much for having me. Renée Adams. I'm a co-founder at Nosedive Co, where we educate and empower people to numb less. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm excited to dive in. It's so funny. We say dive in and nosedive. So it goes perfectly.
So talk a little bit more about numbing less. What does that mean to you? And what should we be thinking about when we hear something like that?
Yeah. So Nosedive is really about it's a wellness and lifestyle brand really around shifting outdated drinking culture. So, learning how to socialize without alcohol, really empowering yourself to really get into these situations and push through that fear and empower yourself to take back your own narrative and really gain that confidence and courage to go into situations where you don't really need that numbing substance. So we really lean into wellness challenges, workshops to work with people to really recognize their own innate abilities that they hold without the alcohol, without the social media, without all of these numbing elements to really understand who we are as people and what we really want out of life.
And how do you do that in your workshops?
Yeah, so we really like to tackle, I think, challenges that people seem to face. So something that comes up a lot is socializing alcohol free, especially like in the corporate space. You know, my background, I have, I've worked in the corporate space for quite some time, and there's definitely a lot of pressure, especially when you're going out with suppliers or you're meeting new people, to have that kind of liquid courage. And so we really teach people different techniques and tools to go into those situations feeling confident, to say no to those things if it's not really what they want to do. Because it can be scary sometimes going into those conversations being like, oh, you don't drink? Oh, you have a problem, when that's really a lot of the times not the case at all. And it's really just a projection of other people onto you. So really navigating those situations with different things in your toolbox to be able to navigate those situations.
I like that. And Renée, I think I was reading somewhere that Gen Z especially is into not numbing, not using alcohol as like that buffer in social situations. Was there like a big shift or change that happened from millennials to Gen Z that's making this more possible, more acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Gen Z is just overall more health conscious. So
Mhm.
I think that has a lot to do with it. And also just social media in general, having access to knowledge more readily available, I think is maybe where that shift is coming from. But I also want to say that Gen Z, I think, is maybe even more dialed in, more focused. Like they don't want to have these numbing substances because they are entrepreneurs, they are go-getters. They are like, I don't want something like this to inhibit me from reaching my goals, reaching my dreams. I think overall, Gen Z is maybe just a little more health conscious, but also maybe more in tune with their own authentic selves and being okay with that. So like I'm semi like a little jealous of that too. It's like, wow, this entire generation is like super in tune with the mind body connection. So I think that's kind of where that stems from. It's very fascinating. So
Mhm. Yeah,
So
and how
yeah.
did you go ahead, Sandra.
okay. So I'm not as up to date on age brackets. So I know that boomers end in 64 because I was born in 64. And so I know that is that Gen X that comes
And
after
then
that?
Gen X comes afterwards. Normally, Gen X is somewhere between 79, 80, 81, depending on who you read and stay up with. And then there's the millennials, another huge generation, almost the same size as the baby boomers. And it's widely accepted that millennials were born up to like 95. And then
Yes.
Gen Z, the generation that comes after that's currently an adult. And then they're thinking of calling the new generation Gen A or Gen Alpha, but I don't know that that's solidified yet. But those are still minor
So
kids.
I have something that I want to ask, or an observation that just suddenly hit me.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to clarify. So Gen Z's mid 90s to when?
To like 2011-ish,
Okay.
2012-ish. Yeah.
So something that just occurred to me while we were having this conversation.
Mhm.
So I have ADHD. I was diagnosed when my son was diagnosed. Um, and I struggled with giving my son medication.
Mm.
Recently, I was reading a book by Dr. Ned Hallowell, and in it, he addresses the issue of medication.
Mhm.
And one of the things that he says is that um, when you give children access to stimulants earlier in the diagnosis process, they don't self medicate. So it
Mm.
actually works in reverse,
Wow.
where they actually have better coping skills because they were given the medication. Whereas older people who, when ADHD was not maybe so prevalent, not very so common, certainly not discussed, found ways to self medicate that could help with these focus activities. And I'm wondering, suddenly, this is like hitting me like, wow, when did ADHD become such a prevalent conversation topic? Mid 90s, right? Was the early start, but certainly 25 through 2011, 2013 was like the big time frame where we started looking at ADHD, its prevalence, and how to treat it. And I'm just struck by, isn't it interesting that also happens to align with this statistic?
Well, I'm so glad that you actually brought that up because that is a piece of my story into
Mm.
why I even looked into sober curiosity. You know, I had never heard that term before, like sober curious. It seems like it's contradictory. Like, what do you mean sober curious? And that's a part of my story when I went through my co-founder. We know each other from grad school, and she actually became a coach around sober curiosity. And I went through her program, her course, as a beta tester through her course. And through that entire introspective period, I was able to understand that was the pinpoint of why I was drinking at the level that I was per week. It's not that I didn't necessarily have the tools to understand my own coping mechanisms, because I think, my parents did the best they could with what they had. But it just seemed to turn into that, and that recognition around that, and that attention to, oh, I think I'm doing this to kind of fill that void, to not feel anything, was a very big eye-opening sector. And I think that's a lot for, not to speak for an entire generation of millennials or anything, but I think that has a lot to do with maybe why we turn to these numbing substances, because we are afraid to feel our feelings. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to have the capability to feel all the emotions on that spectrum. And so when we can meet it with that kind of mindset instead of this resistance to feeling things, I think that's where the shift happens. So I'm so happy that you pointed that out about, the coping mechanisms and kind of like what's at our fingertips to be able to kind of be a little more introspective around that.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. And so you said you got to where you are now because a friend of yours was testing their method and you became one of the testers. Was being sober or having a curiosity around it on your radar before that?
No, and it's funny
Mm.
enough because both sides of my family actually have, just generationally, alcoholism in our bloodlines. So I was always aware of how much I was drinking. But of course, it's one of those age-old things where I was like, I'm aware of it, but is it affecting me? I don't think so. So when it came up, it's been something that I had kind of put my head in the sand about. And so that alone was a key indicator to me of like, okay, there's fear around this, and I don't really want to look further into this. That is why I was like, yes, I need to try this. And I was even hesitant in the beginning because I had a very all or nothing mindset when it came to alcohol. I also have a very competitive background. I played team sports growing up, played Division I college. So I have a very big, just kind of an innate sense for being competitive and all or nothing. It's like, if you're going to do something, you're going to do it all the way or you're not going to do it at all. So I just didn't even want to take a look at it because I was already thinking that I was going to fail because I couldn't go maybe 3 days without having a glass of wine. So I was like, how am I going to go a month? How am I going to go a week? And my dear friend was like, Renee, you haven't even tried it yet. So,
Mhm.
like, why are you thinking you're going to fail? This is just an experiment, which I love that mind frame around it, around sober curiosity, because it is an experiment. It's a way to see, like, trial, to see what works for you. Because my definition of sober curiosity and what it looks like for me is going to look a little different for you, for someone else. But does that mean that it doesn't work? No. So I love the mindset of like, it's an experiment where you can see data points to see what really works for you.
Hmm. I'm wondering, in your experience, how much the college lifestyle feeds into this too.
Oh man, especially with college and college sports. And it's something too that I've reflected on a lot in my own experience in playing lacrosse in college, where I'm like, wow, I really wish that I had tools like this and coaches like this, to kind of integrate and blend into sort of my daily practice. Because I look back and I'm like, the potential that I had, maybe it would have turned out a little different. They have a professional women's lacrosse league now, which is absolutely incredible. And it's like, wow, maybe it could have gone differently if I maybe had, just these different tools to kind of implement. So yeah, I think that's actually an area that Nosedive Co wants to continue to partner with is, collegiate athletes, because college students in general are going away from home for the first time. For a lot of times, they're on their own for the first time. They're dealing with a lot of different emotions. And then you add something as high performing as a Division 1, even Division 2, Division 3, whatever it is, collegiate sport into that, on top of all of these other pressures that I think students put on themselves. And then you add these substances in there, and it's like, whoa, it's this entire sort of blowing up of their lives, and maybe they don't necessarily have the support to navigate those things. So it's really exciting for us and me, I think a little more biasly, to be able to work with collegiate athletes, because I'm like, oh man, I wish I had something like this, and being able to also learn myself and grow from this generation to really understand what it is that they need. Because I can sit here and say, man, this is what I wish that I had. But I think having that open conversation with these students, with these athletes, these high performers, to really understand what it is that they need and the support that they need, is really an exciting time for us, and hopefully for them too.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, how you think culture plays into this. So, for example, in the US, drinking age is 21, right? I grew up in Canada. Drinking age when I was growing up was 18. It's 19 now, but it was 18 when I was growing up. And of course, if you live in any of the Canadian border towns, you know that all the college students from the US are coming across into Canada on the weekend because they can legally partake in alcohol.
Mhm.
And I've traveled extensively in Europe, and I've originally Latin American. Well, not originally, I am Latin American. And so, there are different attitudes towards alcohol and alcohol consumption, and even different ages across the world. So, how much do you think culture plays into this?
Sandra. Okay. This is such a synchronicity. I'm telling you. So my dad's side of the family is all French Canadian. So like I know exactly what you're talking about. It is a part of who they are and who we are as people. So when you sit here and you're like, "Oh, well you need to reduce." It's like, "Oh my God, that's like a piece of me and my upbringing." And so when you go to like family functions, like how I
Mhm.
am with, like, my dad is a wine connoisseur. That is how we connected a lot of the time. So when I told him that I was not really drinking that much, I was really afraid that we weren't going to have any kind of relationship anymore, because I'm
Wow.
like, oh God, that's like how we bond. But
Mm.
yeah, culturally, that's a huge part and piece that I think also scares people, because they're like, what is my identity without alcohol? And again, I think that's another key piece to really understand who you are as a person, because you're much more than the alcohol. That doesn't make you who you are. That's just kind of a piece. And this surgence of the non-alcoholic space, like the wine and spirit and beer space, I'm also so stoked about, because you can still have those traditions culturally, just swap it out with a non-alcoholic wine instead. It's the same thing. You're gonna have the same experience. You're gonna have that same connection, if not deeper, with your family, because you're gonna remember all of it. Like, I'm not saying that everybody gets to that point in the night, but and there's nothing wrong too. I think this is the sober curious part, or sober-ish for some people, where we build these tools to be able to only have one glass of wine.
Mhm.
But I think it's very different for certain people, and I think you really have to get honest with yourself around your behaviors. And I think there is something to be said about kind of resetting and recalibrating what it feels like to not have had alcohol for an extensive period of time, to really understand how your body feels without it. But yeah, the non-alcoholic kind of spirit and wine space is just I'm just so excited about it, because it's exactly that. You can keep those same traditions. Same with coming home after a long day and you want to pour that glass of wine at 5 o'clock. You can do that now. It's just without any alcohol in it. So it's pretty exciting.
Mm.
Yeah, I do like that. What, if anything, do you think the legalization of marijuana has done for sober, curious people?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole additional industry that I think is only beneficial. Again, I think having the tools to understand why you just like, say, for example, like just socializing alcohol free. If you
Mhm.
decide that you do want to have like an adaptogen based or a THC based beverage instead, I think understanding when and why you are choosing that is something really to look into. Something that I always like to give advice about is to make sure that you are not choosing that option to dull or, escape from something emotionally. Because I think that part is very important because that's when it starts to become a part of your pattern, a part of your behavior, even in celebratory aspects where you're like, oh, I deserve this glass of wine. I deserve this numbing substance to get me to a different level. And it's like, okay, wait a second, let me give myself a time to pause to really understand, is this something that I want, or am I trying to veil or shield myself from actually feeling something? So I think keeping that in mind when you are making these choices is something that you can kind of add to your toolbox. But I think it's fantastic that we do have so many tangible options now to turn to instead of going for just the routine alcohol. So yeah, I think it's something that is booming and still to be studied. There's so many options out there. So I know it can be a little overwhelming too to just even decipher between all the different options. So, but yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you think what your opinion is about the proliferation of social media and the increase in numbing behavior if there's a correlation, and if so, what it might look like.
So you mean like the rise of how much people are using social media?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that again, it's like all of these different elements to shield ourselves from really feeling. And I think we have to consciously take back our own story to really get and understand what it is like we even want out of life. And you can't do that if you are constantly scrolling, or if you are in this position where you're eating, for example, to like fill and numb certain voids. Um, so I think when we give ourselves enough time to pause, because I think that's the biggest part here is allowing ourselves to slow down enough to even ask ourselves the question of what we want out of life, because that was something too. It's like getting off of autopilot. That was a big part of my story too. It's like
Mhm.
you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get the high paying job, you get married, it's like all of these milestones throughout life that you kind of need to check. And at no point did I really stop to be like, is that what is that what I even want? And so I think a lot of times people, see this glamorized sense of lifestyle on social media, because that is going back to society, kind of what society says is success, what society says is happiness. And that may not be what it is for you. So I think giving ourselves the time and the space to really ask ourselves and get introspective and find that community, to feel safe enough, to be vulnerable enough to ask ourselves those questions, I think is where the shift is going to happen. Because if you're just on here all the time, of course, you're not going to get off of autopilot. Like, why would you? There's nothing kind of steering you to ask yourself that question. So while I think having this instant gratification and having the access to knowledge is very important, I think we just need to be consciously aware of how much we are consuming, the consumption aspect of it, instead of slowing down enough to really give and receive.
So I love this, because this is exactly the people, the clients that I work with. I always say we did everything we were supposed to do to be happy. And then we woke up one day and said, I've been feeling really unhappy or lost or unfulfilled or numb or out of control or burnt out. For so long, I can't remember a time when I didn't feel that way.
Yes.
And I love that for you, it happened earlier than it did for me.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage to step back and say, it's not making me happy. It's supposed to make me happy, but it's not making me happy. And I need to figure out why. Because you're right, we're not encouraged to do those things, and it can be very scary.
Yeah, and I just encourage really anyone, because I love that you touched on that point too, is sometimes people feel like the time is running out.
Yes.
I've missed my window of being able to take back what's mine. And no, absolutely not. There's no time frame on you wanting and gaining happiness and success and what that version looks like to you. So I just really, really encourage people, if to your listeners and to your audience, is no matter where you are in your life, your age, your occupation, the doubt that, oh, that's not really meant for me, I encourage you to really shift that narrative for yourself, because there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. And the time is right now. Like, there's no better time than right now to start taking the steps towards change. And that doesn't mean you have to quit your job and go move. Like, it doesn't mean you have to do these big monumental shifting things. It's really in the presence of doing these small actions that really add up to the bigger ones. So,
and I would add to everything that you've said, because it's 100% bang on. I would add that even if you make the choice that this is what I want, and then after a little bit of time you realize, well, this wasn't it, that's totally okay too. Because sometimes we get so like, oh my God, it was this, it was this, it was this, and then it's not this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's this, I can't remember. I'm so bad at remembering quotes. Like, I remember the quote, but I don't remember who it's from. But fail faster.
Yes.
Because you get to that next level when you can get over the perfectionism and showing up, by your own kind of expectations that you set on yourself. So the quicker that you can fail, that everybody's really afraid to do, the quicker that you will actually get to, I think, that sort of end goal. And it's always a process. I think we put a lot of things on a pedestal where it's like, oh, if I could just get that one job, or if I could just get that one thing, then it will make me happy. And in reality, it's really these small abundances in everyday life that really add up to a happy life. Because I can sit here and tell you, I've had a corporate job where I was making pretty great money. And I was like, man, I'm in it. I am where I'm supposed to, quote unquote, be by the standards. And I still wasn't happy. So, yeah, just kind of removing that expectation that you put on yourself and reframing it of yeah, failure is fun. Okay, let's take this as a data point. This didn't work out. Cool. Let's shift and pivot to the next thing to see, okay, maybe this is where I need to be. This is my zone of authenticity.
Yeah, That is so spot on. And we talk about that a lot here and a lot in our own practices. So if somebody was at a place where they're thinking, okay, I'm going to make this one little change and I'm curious what it would look like for me to get sober or um, do something a little bit differently, what would it look like if they'd come to Nosedive and say, hey, help me out with this?
Yeah, so we work with clients individually too. So the workshops and the wellness challenges are more of like, the group coaching and more of like that bigger support system. But yeah, to anybody who is interested in what sober curiosity is, or even if it's for them or taking that first step, I would say you can go, I say old school, but it's really not because I love pen and paper, but
Mhm.
taking just a calendar, a normal calendar, and really marking all the days and how many drinks you have per day. So I think really understanding and looking, because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I don't really drink that much. And this is what happened for me, until you actually log and see the numbers in front of your eyes on how much you're actually consuming during the week, I don't think we can really have a good sense of that data point to understand how much we're drinking. So I would say
Mhm.
the first step, and do this with no judgment on yourself. There's no shame at all. This is honestly just to take a look into what you're actually consuming, like actual quantifiable data here. So,
Yeah.
taking the calendar, logging how many drinks. They have some amazing apps these days. I personally use the Sunnyside app. I think they give you like a 2-week free trial, and they have so many amazing data points on there too, like how much money you're saving, how many calories you're saving, and just your trends on your dry days and things like that. So I would say the first step is really to take a look into how much you are drinking. And then from there, because then of course you're like, oh man, okay, so I am drinking maybe a little too much. Um, the next steps after that, I think, is really to evaluate your why. And that's when you can start journaling around, okay, why am I even taking a look into my consumption? What does this mean to me? And then the next step after that, and of course, you could always reach out to us at Nosedive. I literally could talk about this like all day of all the different tips and everything. But really, those are like the top three. Taking a look at how much you're drinking, evaluating your why around why you're even looking into this in the first place. And then you can go into your values. What is your value system? I remember being asked this question and I was stumped. I was like, I don't even really, yeah, I have an okay idea, a sort of like how I live my life and what I think is right and wrong. But I couldn't tell you the like top 5 values that I have because I had never even really, had never really thought about that. So having these sort of pillars to be able to make these decisions and your behaviors from, those are kind of like the top 3 that I think would be not to overwhelm anybody, but yeah, I think that'd be good. Good place to start.
And I think I want to go back and point out something you said earlier. You used alcohol as an example, but you also used really food, recreational drugs,
Yes.
work. Work can also
Yes.
be, so it's not the substance that's the issue. It's when something has become a problem, it could be anything. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And that is the through line here, that it could be anything. Alcohol is just something that is personal, I think, to Mara and myself, and I think something that is just so widely used.
Mhm.
But it really could be anything around your behavior that is no longer really serving your goals. So yes, overworking, burnout, not asking for help, being in sort of this perpetuating cycle that you can't really seem to get out of, and you don't know how to get out of it. So being a part of the Nosedive community, there's so many other great communities too, to get that support and that perspective from other people, to also recognize that you are not the only person going through this. And it's not about the behavior or the substance rather, and it's nothing to do with you. It is the substance itself most of the time, and it is just societal ways that we are so conditioned really to that's just how it is. So breaking out of that is no easy feat at all. So when you are starting this journey, just remember to really give yourself some time and some grace, because nothing is perfect, and you can only grow when you start to become introspective. I can promise you that.
Yes. And I think that practice that you're talking about, like stepping back, looking at what's got you to this point, why you're feeling like you need to evaluate it, quantifying it, and then identifying who you want to be, that best version of yourself. I mean, that is the process that I use with my clients when they start career coaching, right? Because what are we trying to address? We have to name it so that we can see it and call it out when we see it again. And then we become more and more aware of it now that it's named. And now we
Yes.
can start to deal with it and say, okay, this is the thing I'm working against or working towards or putting away and going
Yes.
towards
Yes.
something else. And so that process that you talked about will really serve you almost in any area of your
Yes.
life. And then if that means that once you're through that exercise that you're like, okay, I'd like to become sober or sober-ish, or I'd like to get a new job, or I'd like to work on my communication skills so I don't feel so silent and not seen at work, right? Those are all different things that you can do, but it starts with that natural curiosity about how did I get here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah. Such good points. So tell us how we can get in touch with you, how we can learn more about this if we're curious, or if this sounds like something that is resonating with our audience members, they can reach out.
Yes, absolutely. So on Instagram, you can find my personal page at coach_Radams. And then for Nosedive Co, it's just at Nosedive Co. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We have our podcast, Nosedive, as well. We're on YouTube at Nosedive Co. And we're actually running a Sober October challenge coming up in October. So those registrations are live on our website, which is nosedive-co.com. And if you use code FRIENDS40, you will get $40 off the registration for that. And I'm so excited about this challenge because it's just a step like everything that we talked about today. It's not just for people who are looking to be sober or looking to be sober curious. It's really for anyone who is looking to sort of step off that autopilot track to really start to understand, okay, what are my goals? What do I want from life? And do it in a fun way. Like, we want to be playful. We want to get more creativity back into our lives so that we feel vibrant and ready to go, ready to tackle life. And also on top of that, we've partnered with some really great brands, like sober-ish lifestyle brands. So we've got some merch, we've got some non-alc in this end of Sober October challenge prize pack that's valued at like $400. It's amazing stuff, and all stuff that we use or have consumed before. So stuff that we highly, highly recommend. And it's just a raffle that we'll do for all of the registrants at the very end. So you'll get a chance to win that too.
Mm. Boy, oh boy, it sounds fantastic. And you called it Sober October?
Sober October, which looking back, we're like, maybe we should call it something different, because I feel like people are like, they hear the word sober and there's so much connotation around that,
Mm.
oh, like, ooh, sober. I don't want to talk about that. No, I'm not trying to get sober, but it's much bigger than that. But, it just kind of rolls off the tongue
Oh, I love
a
it. I
little
love the
easier.
alliteration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what I was going to say is it's so interesting that so many sororities and fraternities rush and pledge during September and October. And wouldn't it be awesome if some of them were participating in this
Love it.
program?
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I would absolutely love that because I was actually in a sorority as well. And there's just so much around acceptance with drinking, being a part of the group, and that no is a full sentence if you don't want to drink. So having that confidence, this is the perfect time for that. To be a little bit vulnerable, but also have and find the tools that will bring the confidence for you to be able to go into these situations with this full tool belt of how to navigate all of those things if that's something that you don't really want to do. So absolutely, we welcome everybody, non-drinker, collegiate athletes, corporate sector, anybody, any age is welcome to join this. And we highly, highly recommend and welcome everybody.
So I have another market for you.
Yes.
The other market is for the Italian, and I speak strictly personal, right? For the Italian grandmothers and great grandmothers who you show up at their house and it's like, eat, I made all this food for you. Why aren't you eating?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like it's such an interesting way to tackle these life situations because we want to please everyone. And when we can step back again to take that note and be like, am I doing this to please this person? Or is this something that I really want to do? So getting out of that people pleasing mindset is really difficult because especially for women too, we don't want to step on toes. We don't want to make it uncomfortable. And it's like, but you don't want to do that. And you have the right to be like, no, I don't want to do that. And it may feel very uncomfortable, but if you can push past that uncomfortable nature, on the other side of it, you're like, wow, I stayed true to myself. And the more that you do that, the easier it does become.
I'm thinking Andrea Martin in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh,
Come to my
yeah,
house, I make you
totally.
lamb.
Yes,
Yes, it's important not
absolutely.
just for us to be comfortable saying no. It's really important for those that we're interacting to respect that no and not continue to say, but I'm doing this for you. And the mom guilt, the grandma guilt, yeah, I could go on. So anyway, thank you so much for your time. It's
Thank
been
you.
great getting to know you
Yes.
and learning about this amazing organization. And once again, people can reach out to you at Nosedive Co.
That's it. Yes, absolutely. At Nosedive Co. And you can also follow me on my personal Instagram at coach_Radams. I check all of my DMs. So when in doubt, just shoot me a DM. I'll be there.
I'm so sorry. I avoid my DMs.
Oh, man. It was such a pleasure. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are like fragile, like suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
Blame the dog.
See you next time. Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.